This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
And continuing with the conversation this morning, we will be looking at one of the more recent moves by the Central Bank of Nigeria in the technology space. This morning, that conversation will touch specifically on new regulations that have restrained fintech from certain activities which have been commonplace in the last few months, or if you like, the last few years. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has banned banks and financial technology companies, that's fintechs, from international money transfer services. This significant development is contained in the revised guidelines for the operation of international money transfer services, or IMTOs, which were officially released in January of this year. Now, in the revised guidelines, the CBN has banned banks from operating an international money transfer service, but it allows the banks to act as agents. The ban on financial technology companies is more comprehensive, as the fintechs are completely barred from engaging in this service. Joining us on the conversation is the lead legal services at Cora. Cora is a fintech company that operates out of Lagos. And our guest is Mr. Oyindolapo Olusesi. Mr. Olusesi, good morning and thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Olusesi, what do you make of the CBN's ban on fintechs operating IMTOs?
All right, thank you for that. There are actually a couple reasons for this. So what the CBN is currently trying to do at the moment is, to sanitize the environment. So what the regulator is doing is to just make sure that there is a concentrated efforts or concerted efforts, if you may, to make sure that every inflow and outflow of FX is monitored. So what currently operates now is, as you may very well know, a lot of fintechs find innovative ways of providing these services, and sometimes going beyond what is clearly stated as permissible activities, provided that it is not non-permissible, right? A lot of fintechs just find a way to still provide these services. What the CBN has done now is to make sure that there are no duplicity of activities. So if you're a fintech, focus on your payments, focus on digital banking, focus on this and that, right? If you want to provide IMTS, that is International Money Transfer Services, focus on it. So you are not doing so many things and, in the end, modeling the ecosystem.
So, Mr. Olusesi, talk to us about how this has impacted the fintech space. What are you seeing for companies such as yours and others?
Okay, so we do not have an IMTO license, but and of course I speak in my personal capacity here. So anything I say is in my capacity as Dolapo, and not an officer of my company. That said, what we are seeing at the moment is that there's a lot of calm and observation going on in the industry. So even existing license holders are trying to observe how this would impact their services and what it means for them. So because there are some fintechs that already had these licenses issued to them before this new regulation. So what does this mean for them? Does it mean their licenses will be withdrawn, or how exactly will it impact them going forward? So there's a lot of studying going on. There's a lot of lobbying as well, especially by existing license holders who also are fintechs. So I would say at the moment, companies are still trying to see how this will go. I know a couple of companies that are also interested in getting the licenses, that are just holding off to see, the proper implementation and how the CBN will go about implementing this. For example, there is a lack of clarity around the share capital. So you have a $1 million share capital, or its equivalent in Naira. So the question is, what is the interest rates that you would be using? How would you calculate this? Are you calculating it based on at which day would you determine the interest rate to use? So there's still a lot of clarifications that would be required by people who intend to benefit under this new regulation.
Mr. Olusesi, is there any concern that the CBN is paying some attention, or is paying more increased attention to fintechs, as well as the movement of foreign exchange through fintechs?
I mean, in my personal opinion, there can't be any concern. The CBN has a mandate to ensure that it stabilizes the environment, the financial ecosystem, and of course, nobody can dispute the fact that there is a lot of, for lack of a better word, shady or unclear practices, if I may, in the FX system at the moment. So what the CBN is just trying to do is mostly to enforce the rules that are currently on ground, and in some cases expand what we have so that there is more clarity, there is more fair practices in the ecosystem, and I think that's a very good way to go.
Right. I do have to ask. Part of the regulations this year, especially for IM2 operators, is an increase in the application fee. It's gone up from £500,000 to 10 million naira. And I wonder if this is a fee that a fintech can afford to pay. And perhaps it's time for you to delve into your professional experience. Can fintechs afford to pay a fee of 10 million naira to operate IMTOs, especially at this time? But like I said, once again, with the increased scrutiny that foreign exchange activities is attracting from the CBN.
All right, so I think that there are two things to address here. And the first point to address is that if you want to double in the business of international money transfer, then you have to there's an expectation that you have some financial muscle, and I think that is the viewpoint from where the CBN is operating. That if you are going to play in this space, then you can't be a small boy. It's like saying that you are hoping that the CBN would reduce the cost of application and the shareholders fund for a commercial banking license. I think that's going to be impossible, right? Because if you are going to be playing in that space, then there's an expectation that you are able to withstand the financial pressure that comes with it. Now, that said, I think that what the CBN is trying to do with this increase in application fee is to, in a way, ensure that the people who are coming to the game are serious-minded people, and I also dare say that some of the existing fintechs that hold these licenses, or some of the players in the industry that hold these licenses, are people who you would say have the financial muscle to play in the space. So, I think what the statement that the CBN is giving out emphatically is that if you are going to come and apply for this license, you better have your house in order from a financial point of view.
I need to ask about, and pardon, just the crudeness of our expertise or lack of it, right? I'd like to ask about Flutterwave. More recently, we heard that they shut down Barter, right? And of course, I'm going to also tie this to Binance shutting down its Nigeria operations, even though there's a lot more specificity with it and cryptocurrency and whatnot. But essentially, it seems as if these developments are not unrelated to the reforms or the policies that have been implemented by the central bank. So speak to us about how these platforms are shutting down or refocusing their energies elsewhere, and what that is doing to shape the space for Nigeria, and clearly there's an extension to the rest of the continent as well.
Thank you. So first off, my comments on a Flutter, for instance, will be very limited because I work in a payment company. Well, but that said, I think that I couldn't say for a fact if the decision to shut down Barter is based off the recent regulations. But one would think because of the timing that might have to be. But then again, what the company has said is that it is trying to focus on its, I think, enterprise service, right, at the moment. So whether or not it is due to the regulations, I don't know for sure. But one thing is certain, that the regulation will cause a lot of companies to have a rethink as to what offerings they definitely will be going ahead with, which offering they would want to double down on, and which one they would want to close. For example, I know that with the BDC, with the very emphatic statement by the CBN in its recent BDC circular, you will find that for a lot of companies, the BDC as a line of business may have become a little bit what's the word to use now? They may have become a little bit unattractive. I think that's the word to use, right? So that might make some business models that are built off that to have to be rethought. Now, on the Binance end, I mean, I can speak to that now because a lot of the things are now in the public domain. So I think that what the Nigerian government was trying to do with Binance was to send again a strong message. I think a lot of the things that have been happening in the markets recently have been government sending very strong messages that we are here and we are going to enforce the regulations that we have, and we will not allow any player in the ecosystem to jeopardize what we currently have. And I think that was what the CBN was, what the Nigerian government was trying to do. Whether or not their claims were correct, I don't know that for a fact. But Binance shutting down in a way has, the way I look at it, has two-pronged effects. The first effect is to send a message to everybody in the system that you better be sitting tight, right? Because if the government can go after Binance and try to enforce itself on Binance, its rules on Binance, then they could definitely come for you. So you better make sure that you have your house in order. That's the first thing. Then the second possible effect is then it may, send another message to players in the system or potential new entrants that maybe the government is not exactly receptive to crypto businesses as it claims to be, because just recently the CBN allowed for VSPs to be able to trade with banks against what they had said in a circular in February 2021. So maybe that could also be an effect that this recent thing would have, that maybe the Nigerian government is not exactly as receptive to crypto businesses as it claims to have. But regardless, I know that some businesses are still going on with their offerings, even though they've had to ensure that you don't have maybe stable coins to NGN to stable coins, direct on ramp off ramp. They are finding innovative ways of providing that, or just even shutting down that arm directly and looking at other aspects of the crypto system. But how it's going to affect the markets for a fact, I'll leave the economists to handle that.
Well, Mr. Oluseyi, thank you so much for joining us and according us your time and expertise. Our guest on Tech Now, Mr. Oyindolapo Oluseyi, is the lead legal services at Quora, a fintech company that operates out of Lagos, joining us on Tech Now to discuss how recent policies by the Central Bank of Nigeria has impacted the financial technology company space and what it means for future operations.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.